And guess who got sick at the end of the semester? It's me. I did. As usual. Yeah, pretty much like as soon as the semester ended, and I kind of knew it was coming. A couple of weeks ago, I had started feeling sick, but I like drowned myself in medicine so that I wouldn't get sick because I needed to be able to finish the semester and finish my final paper and all of that. And literally, it was probably like 3 days after the end of the semester, and I was completely just down for the count. You might still be able to hear it because I'm very congested right now. I was out for like 5 days. And then once I had started feeling better, I needed to like really focus and bang out the rest of my proposal, because the week/weekend I was sick was the weekend I was supposed to submit a final draft of my proposal to my chair. And that obviously didn't get done. So I had fallen behind schedule yet again. But I managed to finish it. It is sent. She is reviewing it. I just met with her earlier to go over a couple of questions. So yeah, that's how the end of my semester went so far. But anyway, I say all that to say, it is time for my end of semester recap / what I'm doing for the summer. So I'm just gonna jump right in. Hey, hello, my name is JoJo and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, welcome. So, end of spring semester, end of 3rd year in my program, or technically not. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it's over. So we'll start with classes. The last week of the semester was pretty rough for me, and there was a lot going on in terms of like things happening in the world, things happening on my campus, things happening in my personal life. The last week of the semester honestly kind of feels like a blur because there was so much going on. I don't feel like I was really present at all. Like, even thinking back on it now, it's sort of hard for me to remember things that happened, except for like the big things, you know? But as far as my classes go, so that last week, my all of the classes were pretty much moved online. And I covered this. I vlogged the last week of the semester because I had been planning to do so for weeks, and it just so happened that that week just turned out to be an absolute bust, pretty much. And if you haven't seen that vlog, I will link it up above so you can watch it, just in case you want to see what happened that week. But in that last week of the semester, all of the classes were either moved online or moved off campus. And so my externship seminar class, clinical supervision and consultation, technically, that we moved our final class off campus. We still wanted to make sure that we met in person for 2 reasons. One, the final class, what was that? Okay. For one, the final class had always been intended to be sort of like a celebration party type situation. That was something that had been discussed like literally in the first meeting. The 2 professors had said that our final class would be a celebration of sorts, because based on the sort of freedom of the trajectory that a student can take after 3rd year, this class is the last class that my cohort and I have all together. Beyond this point, some people are going on internship, other people are just going on another externship. So this is sort of like the last opportunity we have that guarantees that we'll all be together. So that was the first reason. The second reason we still wanted to meet in person was because of what had happened that week. and we wanted to talk about it in that class with the professors at the celebration, which just sort of turned into like a round table basically. So yeah, we wanted to make sure that we still met in person, and we like ordered a bunch of food and wine, and we just sat and talked. But overall, I would say the class this semester, this was probably my favorite semester of this class that I've taken. Because if you've been following me for a while, you know that this is a class that I've taken every semester for the past 2 years. And each semester sort of takes on a different sort of purpose. And this semester of the class in particular is the semester that I'd been looking forward to the most because of the content and, you know, what we would be doing. And it also helped that like the professor that we got this semester gave us like a lot of really helpful information and feedback, and it just felt useful. Even though I won't be sad about not having a class at 6 p.m. anymore, I will be sad to not have the class at all anymore. Yeah. I think that's really all I have to say about that class. So moving on, my psychology of sexuality class, that week we also met online, and we had a guest presenter come in and present some research that they're doing, and that was kind of it. There was really like no sort of fanfare, and I submitted my final paper for that class that week, that Friday night. Like really late Friday night. Admittedly, I missed the 11:59 p.m. deadline by like 3 minutes. But thankfully my professor still accepted my paper because the assignment submission portal didn't close at midnight. It just like when I submitted it, the big old like late in bright bold capital letters was on it. And I caught the time and I was like, oh shit, I need to email her. So I did. Thankfully, she still accepted the paper. And so I'm still waiting to get my final grade on that back. But overall, the class was very interesting. The people in that class were very interesting. The professor herself is very interesting. Yeah, I think the class was definitely, in some ways, everything I expected it to be, and in other ways, not at all what I expected it to be, which is both like good and bad, because that means that it like stayed interesting like throughout the whole semester. And I'm not gonna lie and say it's not because of the subject matter. Like, I think sexuality and sex and gender are just really interesting topics to talk about, especially as it relates to clinical work. I will also say though that I think, and this might sound so bad, but like the sort of people that are drawn to classes like that make it difficult for it to feel like a space that welcomes learning. And what I mean by that is, at least at my school, the kinds of folks that are typically drawn to classes like that are people who are already very immersed in that sort of material and research. And then there are always like a few folks like me who are like interested in the topic and want to talk about it, but admittedly, like I'm very much like on the outside. Like I am not at all like immersed and familiar with that area of research. And so people like me coming into a class with people who are very immersed in that world and like literally like live, eat, and breathe this stuff, they can tend to speak in class in a way that can make people like me feel like if I dare say anything and it's not the exact right way to say something, I'm gonna get my ass chewed out. And so I spoke very few times in that class and very much just sort of took an active listening role. So I think that's just like my only criticism of that class. But in general, I did really like it. And yeah, that's about it for classes. The class I TA'd for is over, obviously. the last few weeks of the class, students were just doing their presentations. And so in that final week, it was the same thing. We met on Zoom. The last 2 students did their presentations. And then again, sort of because of just the atmosphere that week, there was very little fanfare. We said our thank yous and goodbyes, and that was it. But I did really enjoy TAing for that class, the first year practicum. I really am sad that I'm not going to be able to do it next year. But also, I think I'm ready to move on from being a TA. And so, yeah. Clinical work. So clinical work is still happening. I had 2 sessions today. And I will continue seeing my patients through the end of June. So like, as far as like my actual like job, I'm still doing that. As far as like externship responsibilities go, like didactics, seminar, those are both over now. We actually had our final didactics and seminar this week. And the final seminar group supervision space was just like a dispo meeting for us to just go over which patients we are continuing with versus which ones are discontinuing therapy versus which ones are gonna need to be reassigned to new therapists. We did all of that in that final meeting. And the final didactics meeting just ended up being a sort of like space for feedback. There was no reading or anything to do. The directors just opened the floor for anyone to say what they liked about how didactics went, what they didn't like, how they feel like it could be improved. Because a lot of, over the course of the year at my externship, there has been like waxing and waning periods of tension. And I think these last few weeks of the year felt increasingly tense for a lot of folks. And I think the directors felt it. I mean, I know they probably heard about it. And so I think that feedback session was an attempt for them to sort of address that. It didn't really work well because only a few people showed up. I mean, I showed up, but I didn't say anything because that was just like the beginning of me starting to feel better. And so I joined the Zoom, but I didn't speak. But very few people showed up. Very few people spoke. So I'm not sure it was what they wanted it to be or had hoped it would be. But that's what the final week for externship and for didactics and seminar was like. As far as my externship overall, I have loved like my supervision. I have loved the patients that I've worked with. I think, yeah, the only gripe I have with my externship is sort of like the tension that has been, you know, coming up over the year. And I do just wish the directors had handled it better. But I also give them a lot of grace because I forgot which director it was, but one of the directors explained to me in a meeting once that this year was the largest group they had ever had in terms of externs and postgrads. And with that, with a larger group, obviously comes, you know, more personalities, different dynamics, and when there's sort of like no real transition from small to large group, you're just sort of thrown into the middle of it. It can be a lot to learn to manage on the fly. So I give them a lot of grace in that regard. I'm just hoping, because I'm continuing part-time next year, I'm just hoping that they learn from this year. And that they, you know, that things just feel better. I do also think my supervisor mentioned that they intentionally made the group just a little bit smaller next year. Like they didn't, you know, accept as many new externs as they did this year, which I think will help in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to continuing part-time next year. I'm looking forward to continuing with some of my patients. I really do feel like I learned a lot at my externship. My supervisors, both of my supervisors, I've learned so much from in terms of like psychoanalytic technique and theory. And I know I think I say this like every year, but I really do feel like I am really settling into my own as a therapist and like really learning about like who I am, what my voice is, like what technique vibes with me the best. I feel like I'm getting to that point where I'm like sort of settling into that. I finally found a place that feels like I feel comfortable here in like, not in like a I feel comfortable here, I never want to leave sort of way, but I feel comfortable here in that I feel like this is a good place for me to build on top of this level of comfort. Like I'm comfortable and therefore I can push myself to learn more and grow as a therapist from this, you know? I hope that made sense. It made sense in my head, but I know anytime I try to put unformulated thoughts into words, it gets a little wonky. So I hope that made sense. But I really like psychoanalysis is what I'm trying to say. I really like psychoanalysis. I think, I don't know if psychoanalytic training will ever be in my future in terms of like going to a psychoanalytic training institute, because that's like another 5, 6, 7 years of my life that I don't know if I can dedicate. But I definitely know that from a theory and technique point of view, psychoanalysis feels like it fits me the best. So yeah, I'm excited to continue next year. And then as far as research goes, I mentioned in my last update that my manuscript got accepted and it is currently in the proof stage. So after I got my acceptance email, I got asked to send in the final unmasked version of my manuscript, because when I submitted it for review, you can make, at least with this journal, you can choose to have either a masked or unmasked review. And all that means is like your name and stuff, like your identifiable information is linked to the manuscript and reviewers can see it, versus unmasked, which is like they don't know who you are, you don't know who they are, and they don't know anything about you. Basically all they have is your manuscript. And typically people choose to do a masked review because it like limits reviewer bias and all of that. And so I chose to do a masked review. And so because I chose to do a masked review, once the paper was accepted, I had to send in the unmasked version of the manuscript. And so I did that. And then a few days later, I got sent documents to sign. Me and my co-author and my advisor got sent documents to sign. And once those were signed, I got sent a bunch of information about next steps. And now my paper is in the copy edit proof phase, which just means that like the journal's like copy editors are looking over my manuscript to catch any final spelling or grammar mistakes, any sort of typos, double checking that all my references and citations match. And they're formatting it in the format that it will be printed in the journal. And so once I get those proofs, if there are any edits I need to make, I will make them and then I'll send them back. And then after that, the paper is published. So that is on the horizon. I haven't gotten the proofs yet, but I should be getting them within the next few days, actually, I believe. And so I'll be on the lookout for those. But the process is almost done. We're almost there. And then other research, like I said at the beginning of the video, I have sent my final draft of my semi-final draft. There's always another final draft. You ever see those memes of like how people label their final drafts, and it's like final draft, okay, actual final draft, okay, actually the final, like final draft. That's me. This is like the final draft, but it's not, because my advisor is definitely gonna have suggestions and feedback and edits that she wants me to make. And then I will make those edits, and then hopefully that will be the final draft to send to my full committee, and then I will be defending in a couple of weeks. So that's happening too. What else? I'm forgetting something. Oh, the co-authored paper. Yeah, we still haven't started working on that again. The end of the semester, it gets really hectic. I think we're all just sort of waiting for the lead author to reach back out so we can finish it. Once she has the bandwidth to finish it, then we will finish it and it will get submitted for review. So that's where research is. This semester, I feel really good about my research this semester. I mean, as anxiety provoking as it was during the semester, like looking back on it now, it's like I did a lot. I mean, I didn't, but like I did, you know? Like I got a paper accepted for publication, and like that was like something on my academic goals list. Well, actually, what it actually says is just submit to a journal. I didn't have really high hopes that anything would get accepted. So I did submit to the journal, but not only did I submit, it got accepted, which felt really good. And then I finally almost finished my proposal. I got that done. At one point in the semester, I was like really worried that I wouldn't get it done on time, because it just felt like I was not making any progress on it whatsoever. But like I got that done, and I'm almost done with that whole process. Yeah, this co-authored paper, I mean, we had hoped that we would have submitted it by now, but you know, things never really go according to plan when there are a bunch of people involved. So it'll get done though. And I managed to do that while doing my proposal and working on a manuscript. So I feel good about what I did this semester research wise. And now that like I'm very close to being done with my proposal, I can say that like I feel really good about where it's going. So yeah. But anyway, now that we are done talking about the semester, let's talk about my summer plans, shall we? I want to curse my program. I want to talk to whoever's in charge and absolutely cuss them out. Because why am I taking a summer class again? Okay, I have to tell you the full rundown of this. So in my first year in my program, we are given sort of like a like tracker of all of the classes we are going to have to take in the PhD program. It's like a spreadsheet where you can keep track of which classes you've already taken, which classes you still have left to take, how many credits you have left to earn, all of that. I have been using that tracker diligently because the last thing I want is to get to the final year of my program and find out that I cannot graduate because I forgot to take a class. So I have been using that tracker diligently. And in my first year of my program, when I was registering for my second year, there was a class that had been offered in my first year that naturally I couldn't take because I was taking my required classes for first year, and that took up my entire schedule. But I wanted to take that class second year. I think I spoke about this a little bit. I was front loading a lot of my classes to try to get as many out of the way as possible, as soon as possible, so that as I progressed, I would have fewer and fewer credits to take each semester. This was a class that had been offered in my first year that I knew I wanted to take second year to get it out of the way because it's an APA requirement. And when I went to go register for second year, both fall and spring semester. Each semester when I was trying to register, I saw that the class wasn't being offered. And so I emailed the student advisor and I asked her, hey, when is this class going to be offered again so I can plan accordingly? And I was told by that student advisor that the class was no longer being offered and that instead I can take this other class. I responded to her and I said, I thought this class was a requirement. What do you mean it's not being offered? Does that mean it's no longer a requirement? She responded to me and said, yes, the class is no longer a requirement because it is no longer being offered. It has been replaced by this other class. So I took that other class thinking that it fulfilled this requirement. And I thought I was good. I thought I had fulfilled that requirement and that I was good. About a month and a half ago, my advisor, not the director of the program, not the assistant director of the program, my advisor in a meeting says to me, are you taking history and systems of psychology? History and systems of psychology. I think that's the class. She said, are you registered for history and systems of psychology? And I said, no. Is that a new class? Completely forgetting that it was the class that I had asked about 2 years ago. I said, no, is that a new class? She said, no, it's being offered in the summer and it's an APA requirement. I really think you should register. And that's when it hits me which class she's talking about. And I was like, oh, are you sure? Because I asked about that class and they said it was no longer a requirement. And she said, no, we just had a faculty meeting and it's being offered in the summer because we haven't offered it in a few years. And the program director realized that he needed to offer it for the people who are going on internship to take it because it's a requirement that they're missing. It took everything in me to not flip out in that meeting, not at her, but because I'm just so frustrated with my program and the courses and all of this bullshit. So I was like, okay, thanks for letting me know. I reached out to the student advisor right afterwards, who also happens to be my cohort member. So I just asked her, I said, what is going on? And she explained it to me. She said, yeah, they completely forgot about this class. The only reason they're offering it is because I reminded them that this was a requirement. Who is in charge? Why is this not something that the program directors are on top of? They were about to send people off to internship missing a required class. They are offering it in the summer. It is a self-taught class and it is 0 credits. That's their, consolation for fucking up yet again, is that it's a 0 credit class, which means we don't have to pay for it, but we still have to take it. And so just when I thought that I was finally gonna have a summer where I didn't have to take a class, I was wrong. So yeah, I'm taking a summer class. I'm not happy about it because I thought I was almost done with classes. I thought I only had 1 class left to take and I'm gonna take it next spring. And then this happened. So that's part of my summer plans. The other part of my summer plans are I am hopefully, if I pass my proposal defense and the IRB gets approved quickly enough, is I will start data collection for my dissertation, hopefully. And the sooner I can get that off the ground, the better, because my dissertation is going to take a lot of time to complete. So yeah. And then what else am I doing? Oh, I'm going home to visit family in July. I'll be gone. I am just taking the whole month off of July because I need it. And I am just going to be at my parents' house being a complete vegetable for a month. And thinking about that feels great. I'm dedicated and determined to actually not do work in the month of July, apart from vlogging and uploading a video, hopefully. But yeah, those are my summer plans. Oh, I also have a concert coming up soon that I'm very much looking forward to going to. Yeah, that's what my summer's looking like. I'm mostly upset about the summer class. I'm really hoping that I can get it done and out of the way by July so that I don't have to work on anything for it in July. I am just like, I'm ready to be done with this program. I really like, just so much has happened that I am now more than ever, I just want my degree so I can get out. And that's all that matters to me at this point. I just want my degree so I can get out, and then I can continue to do what I actually like to do, which is be a therapist. So anyway, yeah, thank you for watching this video, especially if you made it all the way till the end. I truly appreciate it. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Click that little notification bell so you don't miss my next upload. And I'll see you in my next one.